Really sensitive topic. Shall we talk about cheating? Yeah, cheating can be many different ways. Physical, emotional, whichever way cheating. So before we talk about it, I will not gonna talk about cheaters who are doing that just because they don't have any morals whatsoever, and they just do that for they pride, like boost of self-confidence, or whichever reason, when they just go around destroying people's lives, and they don't even feel guilty for that. That's like, they have huge problems, obviously, so we will not gonna get in there. But I will talk about cheating, what has been in my life, what I have seen in my life, what has happened with me, around me, and that sort of cheating, what I experienced. So it will be purely my experience and purely my thoughts about it. So don't take it personal if your life has been something completely different ways, and you experienced that in completely not the same way as I did. So I, as myself, I haven't cheated on anyone, simply because I don't believe that cheating is a solution to anything. My opinion always have been, if you are not happy with where you are, finish one thing, finish your, like, if you are in relationships, and if it goes really bad, then just finish it and then do whatever you want. Don't cheat another person. It's purely my opinion. I don't believe in cheating as such. Like, I wouldn't do that to the person. But I have been the other woman, how we call other bad women. But the thing is, I am quite sure, I'm not saying all of the women, but I mean quite many women have been in this position. Either they knew that or they didn't know that. It doesn't matter, as much as we don't want to admit it out loud, because our society straight away are pointing with the fingers, oh, you are so bad, why are you going with him, and things like that. But then in the end of the day, no one has actually asked how and why that woman got in a position that she is the other woman. So I would like to talk about these things, and I would like to show that from my perspective, why and how it happened with me, how I got into the position the other woman. I can't say I'm proud about it, but in a way, I don't regret it, because I don't regret anything in my life, because everything what happened in my life has given me this experience and understanding about things, how they happen in a way. So I don't regret the thing that I have been other woman, and I don't think I have been bad because of that. Everything has a reason, so everything is a lesson, and I just took it as a lesson for my life and for my experience and my understanding. So, first time when I got into the position the other woman was when I was 26. I just got out of my 6-year long relationships, and I had a work colleague with whom I had really, he was like a friend of mine back then. And to clear, I'm sorry, I'm just wiggling on this chair. And so you understand, while I was in 6 years of relationships, it became that I have only 2 best friends, and I lost most of my friends during that time simply because my ex isolated me big time from everyone because he was overly jealous, and he started drama out of like, but that's another story. I will not gonna talk about it now simply because that's already another story about how things can happen. So basically I got out of relationships and I didn't have too many friends. Most of our friends were in common. So, and when we split up, because we were working in the same workplace, me and my ex, like not exactly in the same spot, but we had many workmates as a friends. So when we split up, it was kind of awkward situation because many people didn't know which side to take. And I told them straight away from the start, it doesn't bother me if you wanna take his side. And I said, you don't have to take any side really, because it's nothing to do with you. I said, if you wanna talk with him, or you can talk with him. If he feels that if you feel you don't wanna talk with me, it's fine, you know. Work is work and friendship is friendship. So work-wise, we were civil with everyone, but outside of work it was different kind of story, because there were people who took his side for whichever reason, and I was like there hanging and wondering what should I do next. I can't say, well, I was kind of lonely back then. Keep in mind, back then I was young, I was unexperienced, I was naive, and most of all, I wasn't awakened to many things, and therefore I felt really lonely because I don't have anyone to love, because I didn't love myself enough to be fine on my own. And so one of my work colleagues, who were our common friend, and we had always good communication, we had a great like connection, even though I was 26, he was 45, I think, back then. So he did call me regarding work on that one particular day after I already split up. And we were talking about work and things, and then he asked me, how am I doing, if I feel okay, if everything is all right. And I said, well, yeah, it's fine. And sort of I didn't give a big like speech about how I feel or I don't feel. And then he just said, he said, maybe you want to go at the lunch break, maybe you want to come with me to have a lunch and we can have a chat, like, so we are not like talking about stuff in a workplace. I said, yeah, it's fine. And I took it quite like as a friendly gesture. So while we were on that lunch, and he was in a relationships as well on that moment, he has been with that woman already for years, but that wasn't his first relationship. I think it was like already, he had marriage, he had kids, but this relationship he got only when he was already older and divorced. And so he was living with that woman already for years. So during the lunch he started to talk and say how his relationships are going, that she is pretty much cold to him, that he's like a furniture in the house, whatever he does she's never happy, whatever he tries to please her, she's always ungrateful for whatever he does. And you know, that's quite common story in most of the cases. And I was like, yeah, well, and I told him, if you want to talk sometimes or something, you can always talk with me if you want to just share how you feel and things like that. And he said that he feels lonely, and he wants to spend more time outside the house too, but she always just pays attention only to work. She takes work to home, so they nearly not ever go out anywhere. And he said, would you like to maybe join me to go, for example, for ice skating? And I was like, yeah, why not? And I didn't see anything like really behind that on that moment, just because I thought, oh, that's a great opportunity. I can go and have like nice activities. I don't have to sit at home most of the time just because I don't have with whom to spend my time, because my best friends, they already had families with the kids. So it was the story where I have friends, but they are already busy with their own life, and I was the one who didn't have kids, didn't have husband, didn't have anything. So I felt a little bit like lonely back then. So, and then when we went ice skating, because he offered me like to spend like a weekend with him, and when we got there, at some point we were eating or like ice skating or like doing whatever else, like having walk around the city, because that was in a different city, that skating rink. And because we were staying overnight over there, I think only during the dinner time, that's only when it hit me that it can happen, that we can get like a little bit more than just a friends. And we had a chat about it, and I said, you know, I just don't know how I feel about it, because I don't like the idea that you have this other half. But then he was so charming, he was so caring. I never felt that with my ex, like that somebody would actually so rushing around me, let's put it that way, you know, like whatever I wanted, everything was there, just like I just needed to do like this, and he was reading all my wishes from my eyes, like as much as it's possible. And because I was quite like, I'm not the person who is asking, buy me this, buy me that. He was offering, and I was like all the time shy, and I don't know, maybe, yeah. So when it got to the bedtime thing, we did have sex, and to be fair, after 6 years of really crap ones, because my first ex was like, that was like 6 years of literally nearly no sexual activities whatsoever. And comparing to what was 6 years all the time, trust me, I am just a human and I had my needs. And I think he opened that animal in me, animal instincts, what was just sitting there. And I should say, I enjoyed it. I felt guilty, but I enjoyed it. So somehow it became that we were not only colleagues, we were like friends with benefits on the side. We didn't meet that often. I think I can count on my fingers how many times we had these interactions. But as we women has quite big, like really high intuition, his partner started to feel something. I don't know what and how and why, because we never were chatting on the phones back then, because it was like old style phones and it took ages to write even few words. So we didn't speak on the phones that often, because if we needed to say something, we could do that during daytime through work phone, but at work you can't really talk about things like that. So it was literally like, I think I can say, I can count on my fingers how many times actually we had something, but like 3 times maybe overall. But that doesn't change the fact that I was the other woman on the side. And why I don't feel bad about it, because I didn't have any intentions to take him away from relationships. I didn't have any intentions to get him as my man. First of all, simply because of the age difference, even though we didn't feel that age difference at all. But I mean, I was still young, and I knew I would want kids at some point, but he already had 3 sons. Older one was even, I think, my age, or maybe 1 or 2 years younger. So I was clearly thinking about it, and I knew that I don't need him as my partner, future partner. So I knew it will be just for spending time's sake or things like that. It doesn't mean that I didn't like him. I think I got a little bit in love with an idea how he treated me nicely, and that sort of lured me in a little bit more emotionally, and probably because I felt quite lonely back then, and I felt a little strange. These like emotions were quite weird for me back then. But then, because she started to feel something, she suddenly started to put more effort in their relationships, and I said, fine, I'm backing off. We're stopping that. We are now only just work colleagues. And it was fine. He said the relationships improved, and after a while I met my second ex. So we went separate ways. We sort of met like time after time as a friends, and we were just like in a normal relationship, civil, friendly, but nothing more than that. Then I came to UK, so even more our ways separated. And I think I met him after when I came to visit my mom for summertime, and that's when he messaged me and he asked me how am I doing, if I'm in Latvia, because he somehow found out that I'm in Latvia. He said, would you like to meet up? And I said, well, yeah, it's fine, we can meet up and have a chat and things like that. And he said, no, I invite you and your boy to my place. I said, how you can invite me to your place? And he said, I'm inviting you because I don't live with her anymore. Because after a while, it became again the same. She became really distant and cold and all in work. So he just said that he can't do that anymore. And so they sort of went separate ways. And he got his own place and he was living with himself, and then one of his sons got a kid, so he became a grandfather, so he had many other things what to worry about and take care about, so he was quite busy and he was fine. The only thing what he said back then, he said like, I so regret that I didn't hold on to you big time. You were the greatest thing what actually happened with me in the last few years. And I said, well, it wouldn't work out with us anyway, simply because of age difference and other stuff. He said, yeah, I know, but I so regret that I didn't finish everything back then with her, and I wasted more time when I needed actually to finish before we started even to meet up. So the point in this case is, and that's quite often the point, if man is seeking something outside relationships, especially if it's a long time relationships, obviously there is something broken already inside relationships. That's why they seek something what they can't get in there. I'm not being cynical in this case. I know many women will say, oh, you don't know the situation, I'm doing everything I can and things like that. I was saying the same thing about me and my ex. Like my last ex, my boy's father. I thought I was doing everything I can and things like that. But then it's nothing about doing all you can. Quite often we become, even if there are no problems, look at your behavior, what I was doing wrong. I was being like a mother to him. I always said, do this, don't do that. I was always sort of showing him what and how he should do. I never let him be a man on a first place. So where is the wonder that he started to try to seek that approval somewhere else, that he sort of is a man? Yeah? We had great sex with my ex. There was no problem in that. And still he went and cheated on me simply because I was acting the way I was acting. Sometimes I think I was acting more as a mother rather than a woman or a partner. So before you judge the other woman, especially if there is no, like, there hasn't been any, like, I don't say about the relationships when other woman is coming in and saying, oh, I'm going out with your man and things like that, but when you sort of feel like intuitively that your man has someone else, but you don't have really a proof of that, but you feel that something has changed in his behavior or something else, and you have a suspicions that he has other woman, think what are you both doing wrong in your relationships, and don't say that you are the only one who is doing all the things to improve. If you have different case, if you already have sat down and you spoke about the issues what you have in a relationship and you try to work on them, and in the end you are the only one who is working on them, different story. But if you have sat down and you exposed that he doesn't like this and something doesn't work like how he would like to, and you say your part and you both work on it, and then suddenly some woman rushes in and tries to break everything apart, then yeah, then that woman, I don't get it why she's doing that. Then obviously there are certain reasons for that. But the other woman quite often doesn't want your man. He is the one who is chasing her. So on that time, so back then we finished that, and I said, because I didn't need him as my partner, so I wasn't interested in him as a long time. I was just lonely. I needed someone with whom to spend time and to have sex. Simple as. I am being honest. Nothing wrong with that. We all have our needs. But I never wanted to take him away from the family or something else. So we spent only the time when he actually needed that. Even though no, I don't regret anything what I did back then. You can now throw the stones at me, but I don't regret anything. And the same situation happened just like few years ago when another guy came along. And you know what's more interesting? In those cases, even sex wasn't the main issue what they wanted from me. They actually wanted someone with whom to talk. And the last guy with whom I had the same situation as with the first one when I was the other woman was exactly the same. He came in, he actually more needed that, he needed more like talks, he needed to talk out all what he have on his heart. And I told him all, and I told like, because when the second time happened it was different, because I was already way much wiser, and I told him straight away, you have to sort out your things. You have to finally understand what you actually want from your life. You can't just go on just because of kids or something else, for which just because it's more comfortable that way, or to eat, it's easier that way, but still be completely unhappy in those relationships. I said, you have to finally understand what you really want from your life. If you will not gonna change anything, nothing will gonna change. Everything will gonna keep on the same. You will gonna have these arguments, then you will not gonna talk for ages, then you will have like whatever weird situation in the house because of that and things like that. I said, you can't just go out and look for other women just to for them to be like a plaster for your wounds just because you can't deal with your life. And in those cases, like I said, sex wasn't the main issue why they were coming over here. They wanted to talk. They were talking, we were talking, and they needed cuddles. They wanted cuddles, they wanted warmth, they wanted like simple thing that they can lay down and I stroke their hair. They wanted simple things, simple affection. Sex was like just like on the background. So, but there is another risky part of being the other woman or the other man as well. I'm not talking only about cheater man. There are many women who are doing exactly the same things, but different case scenario, of course, was with my twin flame Shane when I got in a position being other woman. But as I said, that was more complicated situation simply because that's how our journey started when we met, and we just couldn't resist that. What was the hardest part? And we fell in love, and that was the hardest part. We didn't have so much sex as such, but we had a lot of communication, and I think sometimes this emotional cheating is way much harder part than actual physical cheating. Because one thing, if your man is just going for sex just maybe for whichever reason he goes and has this physical thing, maybe he just needs, maybe he's, I don't know, sex drive is so high that you can't fulfill his dreams and things like that. But one thing is that if your man falls in love with someone else, but keep in mind, not ever, maybe 1% out of 100 times, if someone goes out of the family for like cheating in whichever way, it never works out. Not ever. Even if you start relationship with that other woman or something else, it never works out. And it never works out simply because of the same reasons what I said already in a previous videos. And I think when I spoke about relationships, you can't just jump from one relationship straight to another one. You have to, when you break up, you have to have this healing time. You have to have this single person time to understand what did you do wrong in those previous relationships. You have to analyze what went wrong. How did you grow up? Why that person treated you the way they treated you? You have to understand. You have to understand yourself, what you want and what you don't want, and you have to understand what didn't you get from that other person, why all the relationship went down a hill. And not just blaming the other person, but understand, like blaming yourself too. And not like even blaming, but understanding why everything went down a hill. Why you couldn't save that. Why you didn't want to work on that on the first place anymore. So, even though Shane went back and tried, because of his child, to work on his relationship again, I told him from the start it will not gonna work out because of those issues, what he told me why he felt unhappy in those relationships. I said nothing will gonna change. It will gonna change maybe for first few months. It will be again as a sort of honeymoon phase, but then it will gonna go back to how it was before. Because people don't change that easily. It would be a huge surprise if actually people would put work in it. But when people are already so bitter about everything how they are by that moment, Shane, the same as my first man to whom I was the other woman, they both were supposed to at first break up and only then to go and seek someone else. With me and Shane, it was a little different situation, but it doesn't change the fact itself. He was supposed to break up with his ex already ages ago, but this was again this typical scenario. I'm living with her for the sake of our child. What is wrong? Because the child sees what is wrong. Of course, there could be manipulative other person who is just putting so much like conditions that in the end you think, oh my god, I will not gonna be able even to cope with all these conditions, what they say, if we will gonna split up. I will gonna just become like a homeless person or whatever else. There could be many different reasons when, but then again, there is no such thing as you can't do that. You can. You just have to sit down and think clearly what and how you can change before you actually get in many other sideways relationship, with other women, and then there will be all the time the same story. You get someone on the side, and then that woman finds out that you have a partner, or partner finds out, and then it's like wishy-washy all the time ways, Before you start to do something on the side, think what you actually want from your life, from yourself, and from your future partner. If you look back on what happened and what went wrong. I'm not saying, sometimes it works out for people who find someone else on the side and they have the greatest connection and communication and everything else, and it works perfectly fine. But that's so rare. It just means that they souls have met and they have been wise enough and they know how to work on these things. But in most of the cases, if other woman with a guy gets together, after a while it will gonna become again the same case scenario. Something will start to go wrong in their relationship, and they will gonna try to find another woman again and another woman, like a roundabout, simply because person hasn't dealt with their own issues and haven't understood what's going on and why it is going on. And as much as we like to blame always the other one, like for example, those men who seek for another woman, they always blame their partner that she's like this, she's like that. But then again, why are you going back to her? Because it's so much easier. You know her. It's the devil, but you know that devil. Yeah? You are not going with another woman. You don't start with her relationship because it's scary. It's something completely new. You don't know what to expect from that. So it's easier to go back to your usual partner because you know her ways, you know how to deal with these ways. That's why it's a suggestion to those who really think that, oh my god, he will gonna leave or she will gonna leave the other person because of me. No shit, they will not. They will gonna maybe for a while, but when they will start to see that they have to deal with new issues with new person, they will gonna get scared and they will gonna run back. And then they will gonna say, oh, I'm sorry, I did a mistake and things like that. No, it's not a mistake. You knew what you were doing. You actually knew what you were doing. It's only the thing that you don't know yourself, and you don't love yourself, and you don't love other person as well. Same as you don't love the other woman or other man with whom you are getting into. So it all starts from you. I have been the other woman. I'm not ashamed of that. But I'm not proud of it either. But it is what it is. It's life, and that's my life experience. And if I wouldn't have that, I wouldn't know. I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking about it with you, and I probably wouldn't know how to deal with many other issues in myself. Simple as that. So yeah, that's a little story about the cheating and the other woman slash man. It always applies to both genders. I am not saying that only woman is the good one. The man can be the good one as well. And then, but society always thinks that only men are cheating. No, I know that many women are even worse than some men. Trust me, some women are evil, pure evil. I don't have this girl code. Yay, girls, girl power, things like that. I believe in equality. We both genders can be equally bad, and quite often actually women can be the cause of the trouble. They always can start, but they can turn everything upside down when man is the bad one. And that's really toxic. Really, really toxic. So before you blame someone else, accept the fact that we all are toxic in a way. We are toxic till the moment when we start to realize what is wrong with ourselves. And when we start to deal with ourselves first and heal those issues with ourselves, then we slowly take out this toxicity out of us. And only then we can start to think what was actually wrong with other person too, and look from those sides. Deal with yourself first. It all starts in you. So that's about cheating. Quite long video, and probably no one will gonna listen till the end. Anyways, we will gonna speak about something else in the next video. I still haven't figured out, but I wanted to talk about cheating this time. So have a good night or day, and I will see you in the next video.